Hello, I'm Sierra Scott. Welcome to It's All Good. This is a show dedicated to people, places, companies, and organizations that are working hard to make the world a better place to live. Symbolic of the defining event of the 20th century, the National World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. is a monument to the spirit, sacrifice, and the commitment of the American people. The Honor Flights program was developed after the memorial was opened in 2004 to give our veterans a chance to see the memorial dedicated in their honor at no cost to them. Students at Pleasant Valley Middle School in Wichita were able to help raise extra money to send veterans on a recent flight, and they were also able to get an up-close and personal education about America's greatest generation that they couldn't learn in any classroom or textbook.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. With the unbounding determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph, so help us God.
They can't be paid for what they've done. There's no way to even measure up, but you know, we can at least try and do as best as we can.
They're very humble and like they know what they did, but they don't realize that it's, I guess, as much of a big deal as other people do. And like as we were going around, people would stop them and tell them thank you and shake their hand and how much it was appreciated. And at one point, the guy I had, he was just like, I'm surprised that people are as appreciative as they are, and you know, I did what I did because I had to do it.
I wanted to go because we could never repay back the World War II veterans for what they did for us. There's just nothing we can do to repay them, but just getting them to the memorial, something that we had done for them, was a big deal.
It was just like overwhelming on like how much has happened and like what all I've gone through, and there's always more we can do, but like I know that what we've done is appreciated, but like what they've done is even more appreciated.
Appreciation, a word that was used over and over in reference to the veterans on this honor flight. Can we ever say thank you enough to those who have protected our freedoms in a time of complete uncertainty?
Every one of them left home not knowing if they came back the next day. And every breakfast was a blessing in their day. Our military, our current military now is standing on a platform. That platform was built in a swamp, and that swamp was earned by World War II, Korean-era veterans, and Vietnam-era veterans. We live in the greatest nation on the planet Earth because of them. And if we can't pay tribute to them, then we ourselves will be forgotten.
Spearheaded by Kansas Senator Bob Dole, the National World War II Memorial was opened on the National Mall in 2004. Honor Flights is a nationwide program developed in 2005 to send World War II veterans to Washington, D.C. to see the memorials dedicated to them at no cost to each veteran.
The Vietnam Memorial was built first, and then Korea. And as a nation that can forget things, yeah, we did it 60 years late, but the important thing to my council was that we did it. The country had a memorial, and our veterans from Kansas need to be there.
It takes a lot of resources and a lot of help to make this happen. It costs about $650 for each vet to make the trip. Middle school students raise that money and more to make this journey possible for them. But it's not just the money. Each vet needs a guardian too, something these students were happy to be as well.
We talked about going to Washington, D.C. for a week just for fun, but then Major Traeger heard of this program and we all talked about it and felt like it would be way better, much more of an experience than just going for a week.
As we progressed, it came across our plate that some of the junior ROTC kids could do the wheelchair work, could be guardians, could go with them. And now they have an opportunity to see and grow in ways they can't even appreciate. So we said, yes, this is a big green go. They went out and raised money for themselves and their adult companions that supervise them and World War II veterans.
I think that they don't learn as much about American history and American military history as much as kids used to. And so this gave them just an opportunity to learn about what made our country free, you know, through World War II, because the outcome of this could have been very different had we not entered the war and had these veterans not been there to win that war.
I know that there was some concerns that how could you charge America's greatest generation to a bunch of teenagers? Kids these days are so unconnected and yada, yada, yada. As we focused on that issue, it was really obvious that these JROTC kids are not the cross-sections that have purple hair and earrings and bones in their noses or whatever. These kids were squared away young kids that carry on the basics of American patriotism and the basics of American life.
It's also a unique opportunity for both young and old to mix with each other and share a glimpse into their lives for 36 hours. It took these students several months to raise enough money to make the flight.
Last summer, we did a lot of car washes for like a long time, and we all got sunburnt, and like that's basically how we raise most of our money, is doing car washes and bake sales and stuff like that.
In all, they raised nearly $12,000 for the 12 students and 4 veterans to fly.
What's going on this morning? We hopefully will get to Washington, D.C. by 3.5 hours.
The whole trip lasts about 36 hours. Day 1 starts at 5 a.m. at the airport. There's a certain excitement and camaraderie that builds almost immediately.
The night before we were supposed to go on the trip, I was really nervous and I was freaking out because I thought that these veterans were, going to be, I don't know, like they were going to be really picky and stuff like that, and I was going to do something wrong. And I was really nervous, and we got on the plane and they were really nice. Like, they were apologizing and like they were really excited, and so that kind of calmed me down a little bit.
The night before, I was kind of like a little bit panicky. I was like kind of freaking out because I was all scared of like what happens if I lose my veteran, or well, I wouldn't lose him, but what happens if something goes wrong.
Despite the age gap, these students quickly found common ground with the 80 to 90-year-olds.
Most of the veterans were really ornery and really funny. My veteran liked to talk about how in high school he was an ornery kid. Brittany had veterans who wanted to race her up hills. She'd be pushing a wheelchair. Like, she had a brother and sister, and she pushed the sister in a wheelchair, and the brother would say, "I'm gonna race ya," and just take off running. And they would tell us war stories, but they would try to, add in some of their ornery times in war and things that they had done. And so I think that made it a lot easier on us to have such a relatable topics on being ornery and stuff. The trip up there was my first plane ride ever. I was absolutely terrified. And as we were walking down the aisles looking for places to sit, this man looked at me and his wife, and they could tell I was really nervous, and they asked if it was my first plane ride. And when I agreed, they told me to sit down, and they were gonna help me through it because they'd flown all over the world. And so I sat down, and at first he looked at me and he said, "Wait, I gotta see if you're cute enough to sit next to me." And he was like, "All right, you can sit here." And they talked about how if I freaked out too bad on the plane ride up, he was either gonna have to slap me out of it or kiss me out of it. And I was like, okay, got this. But his wife actually held my hand the whole way up. I was that scared. Shelly sat a couple seats in front of me, and she could see me, and she'd flown before, so she thought it was funny. And I think in that moment I realized it was gonna be a really great trip, just because just 2 people had made my day already, and it was 7 in the morning.
Miami Air International, you're on a flight this morning to Baltimore, Washington. We're happy you're flying with us. We look forward to having you.
Well, you feel pretty small in many ways. It's for me, I don't know a soul that's on the plane, and just to get dumped off at the airport and say, there it is.
You didn't have to go far to hear veterans talk about their service.
Mixed emotions, I guess you might say. It's not going to bother me, I don't think. I was not in a combat unit, but I was in a combat zone for 11 months.
With their beverage carts.
I could see down the driveway and see the bodies stacked there like cordwood. But that's as close as I got to in the camp. But I could see the inmates standing down there in the street. Looked like they was in pajamas, so thin I don't think they'd cast a shadow. It was pitiful looking things. They just stand there, just nothing to do, looking at you like, what are you going to do to help us? It's a pitiful sight to see.
I have seen everyone from the guy that was at Iwo Jima and saw the flag on the hill, to the guy that was in the boat next to Tom Hanks's boat, if you watch Saving Private Ryan.
And just the learning experience. I mean, these people know so much more than our textbooks do.
World War II veterans, they don't talk about their experiences in World War II. Yeah, when it was over for them. And they went right back to work, raising their family and being productive citizens. But now they had an opportunity to talk a little bit about their experiences in World War II. And that's important to them because they realize now that they're coming to the end of their time, and a lot of people don't know what they did.
Once the plane landed in Baltimore, it felt like it was day 2 of the trip. Coming up after the break, we'll show you how honor flights makes the trip for these veterans even a little more special. It does more than take veterans to see the national memorials in Washington, D.C. It creates a special once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for veterans to be honored throughout the entire trip. And it starts with the welcome into Baltimore's airport.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah. No. We got bridged.
I'm Colonel Mike Guccio, United States Marine Corps. I'm here from the Pentagon to greet you. Welcome to BWI and the Washington, D.C. area. I'd like to thank you for your service. We all hold your legacy dear.
Once the veterans deplane, there are hundreds of uniformed military personnel there to greet them.
I saw them when they came home. I was 16 years old. And the greeting they got was to take their uniform off and go to work. No other than a hug from their parents, and that was it.
After a quick bus ride to the National Mall, the veterans and their guardians hit the ground and make their way to see the memorials.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Welcome to your memorial. Enjoy your visit today.
Once you get there, you're just stunned by how great they are, how they're made.
You know, you kind of go and you see pictures of the memorials and books, and when you're actually there, they're just so much more better in real life than you could ever imagine. And then having the vets with you and knowing that the vets are also seeing these memorials in their honor, it kind of gets them. It's happy for everybody, and you know, there's just so much more beautiful in real life than like you see in any pictures.
All the memorials were beautiful and so well planned. It's so more real when you go there in real life. And my veteran, like I said, he just couldn't even fathom that he was there. So excited to be there. He actually made me want to cry most of the time because he was that excited to be there. And people would stop us the entire time to thank them, and they didn't mind at all. They were just glad to see it. And
well, it's a very inclusive memorial in that it's got the simplicity of having all the states and territories. It's kind of interesting. We're standing next to the Kansas pillar, so I think it's a way to personalize the memorial for each of the veterans to be able to come to their state. And since back then you usually oftentimes deployed with people from your area, you tended to have some sort of lineage with the state within certain units. So I think it really has captured the scope and the geography, the distances that the war covered. I mean, it really was the whole world. And,
I really didn't know what to expect. It's very fascinating that this tribute has been made to the veterans and to what has gone before us.
They're humble because they came home with no psychologists, with no help. They dropped and built this country, and then when they came home, they did it for the people that didn't come back.
Although a lot of veterans have gotten to see the National Memorial, coming up after the break, the students got to emotionally experience the honor of the veterans who will never get to see this great memorial built for them. You're watching It's All Good. Honor Flights pays tribute to all veterans, and the group of students from Pleasant Valley Middle School got to experience firsthand the honor of the veterans who will never get to experience the national memorials. But those veterans' service for our freedom did not go unrecognized.
World War II Memorial, I didn't expect to see all the stars in the back, 405,000 stars for all the soldiers that passed away there.
There was a lady that sent our school her father-in-law's dog tags. He didn't get a chance to make it to the memorial. She wanted a piece of him to get there. And so she's like, I want one of the students and their vet to just go and take pictures with these dog tags at all of the different places. It was just so special because it was like having another veteran there with you.
You think about it, these belonged to this person, and this person died. And knowing that he did fight for our country, I mean, he deserved everything that we could have done for him.
Those dog tags were as important as any of the other men there.
It is more than just a trip to see all the memorials.
It's a race against time to see all the main attractions in Washington, D.C. The schedule's timed down to the minute so the veterans can fully take in all the memorials. One of the last they took in was to Iwo Jima.
Anybody comes to Washington, D.C. ought to see this. Yeah. It's so impressive. It's just a monument that really stands out to me.
What emotional changes have you seen in some of these students as you were watching?
Well, as I watched them at the memorials, they realized what a threat war was.
Another person talking about seeing other people dying isn't the same as somebody in the movies seeing people dying, because he had it all in detail, because he was out in the boat watching all the men fall down just right there. And when they were getting out of the boats, you just saw them blood just splattering all the way from the boat. So Iwo Jima was crazier than I thought.
Gritty, tough, ornery, whatever you want to call them, they stood through the battlefields, the shore bombardments, the naval gunfights, the marine landings, the airborne assaults that we look at in movies and see it so automatic. Those young adults grew up by years for seeing the sacrifice that these people made for them.
It's not just the memorials that these heroes get to see. Some receive long-forgotten recognition. This Naval Award ceremony was a surprise to a veteran who went over 60 years unrecognized for his courageous action under pressure.
I would like to identify this as a formation.
And I didn't really know what was going on. And I was kind of just looking at him, and when they did it, I think it took a second for it all to sink in, and then the look on his face was just, it made the whole scene.
Harold D. Sorensen, post, PG-83308, Coast Guard cutter. Performed services in an outstanding and meritorious manner following the dispatch of your ship to an area of disaster caused by two tankers collided, the Punta Gorda and the Empetco. Upon arriving at the scene of the disaster, began a search for the survivors, which resulted in the saving of 15 men. You personally went into the water and saved 15 men. All of this took place while a 20-millimeter ammunition ignited by fire was exploding on your boat and all around. That Mr. Sorensen could be decorated with a Navy Cross. Let them pin the medal and the formation can go. Dismissed.
Way to go, guys! Good job!
Despite the huge age gaps between the vets and the students, they share a bond that will never be broken.
And I had no idea who my veteran was until I got to the World War II Memorial, and I just grabbed onto a wheelchair. His name is Wayne, and he stuck with me the entire trip. At one point, another lady tried to push him because I wasn't off the bus fast enough, and she made him come find me. He didn't even know my name, but he just knew that he didn't want to be with anybody else.
You would ask the veterans if they wanted a wheelchair, and they would look at you like you were crazy. Like, seriously? I'm fine. And then you're supposed to ask them, do you want a wheelchair? And they're like, no, we're good.
Even though there was some grumbling, the bigger picture was this generation needed to be with that generation.
After 36 hours, it was time to head home again. But boarding the plane wasn't the end of their surprises.
Mail call, for instance, is something we introduced on our honor flights, and we introduced it nationally to all the other hubs. When we do mail call, they actually get letters from kids in their communities. They found out that mail call didn't happen for these veterans. Sometimes 60, 90, 120 days in combat, when they don't get to take a shower, change socks, or even if their socks still were on their feet.
Arriving back in Wichita, these vets still had something to look forward to.
We get off the plane and we go down, and there's just almost I don't know, maybe more than 100 people down there just clapping, and like they never did stop clapping. It's kind of at a loss for words, but I was extremely like glad.
There's so many red eyes, and it was just special to see how many people, you know, some of them didn't even have family that was getting off of the plane. They just showed up to support our vets.
I just broke down. I started crying because I was just like, wow, we really did it. And like, I was proud of what we done.
When you have kids like that dedicated to the mission, our committee knew from the get-go that nobody was going to stop it.
Oh, I think this is an experience that these kids will remember the rest of their lives. They will never forget this, and they will understand more the importance of what happened in World War II.
Honor flights are fully funded by donations from people like you. Without your support, this never would have been possible.
The committee's greatest commitment right now is awareness. The public needs to be aware. We need to get veterans to sign up, get on our waiting list. That way when we go to donors, when the council or committee members go out and say, hey, we need a donation, we actually can substantiate that right now we have 1,000 waiting on a list and 20 signing up every day. And if we don't fund them now, it'll be too late. We've learned to be more efficient with how we ask for donations and take every donated dollar and take it all the way. This nonprofit does not take anything off the top. We take the donations and put them right back in honor flight.
For many of these vets, this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, an experience they never would have gotten without honor flights.
Oh, I thought it was beautiful. I'm real honored that they built it for us.
Thank you for remembering.
World War II vets are dying at alarming rates. If you'd like to donate or know of a veteran who would like to go on a Central Prairie honor flight to see their memorial before time runs out, go to this website for more information.